Hi, this is Linda Janasz. Welcome to Mindfulness Matters, where we explore the science, strategies, and skills for stressful times. So when I first was introduced to mindfulness, it seemed like this interesting introspective journey. I was skeptical, a bit reticent, and ultimately very curious. I had just gone through a profoundly difficult time in my life, and I wasn't finding a way to crawl out of that illusionary hole. I was truly looking for anything that could help me reduce my own profound suffering that I was experiencing, despite the fact that I was very well aware of all of the psychological support and also my own research and my own clinical experience. I was willing to venture out and explore other modalities other than what was available at the time. This was just around the time when mindfulness was being introduced to North America, long before the word mindfulness became fashionable. So when I was first introduced to this work and this research, it was a really formal setting. I began studying and exploring mindfulness at South Miami Hospital with some other colleagues and clinicians. I immediately found beauty and simplicity in the work and the science of mindfulness meditation, and we're going to talk more about that over time. It was just beginning to indicate there was so much scientific support for it. Now, I read all that I could about its practical applications for me and for those that I worked with, really seeking ways to really, truly, and fully understand the ideals and foundations of mindfulness, the foundations of mindfulness. And that's what we're going to talk about today, the foundations, the practical applications, or the operating principles, and ones that we can return to over and over again. And believe me, I do this each and every day. One of the things that attracted me most to the practice was that one of the skills that was originally promoted during my introduction is that over time, we can actually learn to choose our thoughts and stop overthinking. I was hooked. Mindfulness is actually a way of connecting with your life, and it's something that doesn't involve a lot of energy, said Jon Kabat-Zinn. And I had the privilege of hearing and participating in some of his lectures. He's really considered the father of Western mindfulness. Now, this is important. It involves a kind of cultivating attention in a particular way. It's paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally, as if your life depended upon it. That's what Kabat-Zinn said. I think it's worth repeating. It's paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally, as if your life depended upon it. Now, I can tell you about the science, but what really changes everything is our own direct experience. And that's where mindfulness matters. It requires us to investigate our relationship with ourselves and our direct experience, all those sharp edges. Now, what we've grown to understand over the years is that living mindfully does require a lot of practice. It takes right effort, and that's what we're going to talk about today, right effort, and lots of it. We're going to discuss those pillars, those operating principles of mindfulness, because really without these, we tend to make mindfulness either too seriously or just kind of loosey-goosey. I know that was certainly my tendency. The best way to approach these practices is as if we're playing a string instrument. I don't know if you've ever done that, or at least kind of practice with one. If you tighten the strings too tightly, it sounds sharp and edgy. And if it's too loose, it sounds off. So right effort is our awareness of our experiencing not too much and not too little. It is with a light touch, great patience, loving compassion that we start this empowering journey. over and over and over, each moment and each day. We get to challenge our perfectionistic, unrealistic standards, and we get to learn to live more joyfully, presently, and embrace the lives we deserve and that we've earned. Each one of us does this, reducing angst and worry and embracing this moment with more grace and ease, but not all the time. That would be unrealistic, and that's what we're working on, also changing and challenging. So we're not going to start with perfect attention or awareness. That's just a word and that's just a thing, and it's not possible. Mindfulness matters. It invites us to take action, personal investigation, and apply some tools and skills to help us deal with fear, with grief, with anxiety, and anger, and many of those other challenging experiences all of us have. Now, these practices have evolved over millennia, and I think that that's a really good thing for us to know, how lucky we are today that we can understand what it means to be mindful during this period. We do know that these practices do impact our brain, and we've talked about this. With over time, we strengthen our prefrontal cortex, we reduce our amygdala, we change how our bodies respond to triggers. And the foundational pillars are really just a roadmap that guides us on these paths. Now, as mindfulness becomes more mainstream, I do believe that its meaning has become somewhat clouded. You know, I hear people suggesting that we should be mindful for this and present for that. And it's often described as simply being present in the moment, which is really the first step, remembering to bring our attention to whatever we're experiencing here and now, our thoughts and pleasant emotions, whatever work we have at hand. But it's really just the beginning. So resting in the present moment is an important piece. It's the first step to bring our attention back to what we're doing. But really, it's really just one of the aspects. You know, when we limit our definition of mindfulness to just being present, we omit so many of the other necessary and important benefits. So mindfulness, remember that definition. It's knowing what we're feeling and what we're thinking at any given moment with some acceptance. And we practice this. We can do it formally with our eyes closed in mindfulness meditation. And we can do it in our daily activity, whether we're washing the dishes or going for a walk. So when we are present with wisdom, clarity, kindness, with an intention of patience, we are not just being present, but we are leaning into this with a particular attitude. When we notice our judgments, perhaps anger may be bubbling up, and we invite some intention towards this with an attitude of acceptance of the negative feeling. But we have the intention to override it. You know, if our present awareness is focused on anger, it ultimately won't serve us. So we can notice challenging emotions. They may be sending us a message, and it might need our attention, because the truth comes out. It just costs more later. But these happier states and attitudes, a kinder internal narrative, and really the desire to uncover and discover the softer and kinder edges that lay within. This is why mindfulness matters, because this is truly an opportunity to reduce unease and have more ease, discomfort so that we can have more comfort, unhappiness so that we can increase our happiness. So this is important. Being present is important, but let's go over the operating principles of mindfulness practice so that it can help us and shift us back on the path each and every day. So number one of the operating principles, Yes, stay fully present. Paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally, as if your life depends on it. This is really the most popular and really the basis of mindfulness. Now, it sounds simple, and it is, if you really think about it. But I can tell you, even after many years of practice, I do give myself a free pass each day, knowing that tomorrow is another day to begin again. It does take time to come back and to come back over and over again to the present moment. And it does get easier. And presence is really where it's at. When we are present and less distracted, we are happier. Now, I'm going to tell you about the lifting, the spark of momentary joy, of the clarity that comes with it. But you really need to be your own researcher. It's not enough to read about it or hear about it. We do need to experience it. Ultimately, coming back to present moment is brain training. It isn't in our nature to rest in present awareness, but over time, you too will notice the benefits. Number 2, operating principle is clarity. Now, I would suggest that it's the awareness of the present experience, seeing clearly what's arising, even if it's anger, and identifying it as anger. Then it isn't who we are, it's just how we are in the moment. So we're cultivating a way of clearly seeing, feeling, and experiencing everything right now. Number 3, non-judgment. Now, we all tend to have dualistic thinking. We're always labeling things as either good or bad, positive or negative, right or wrong. But that really influences how we feel about something. And it is a tendency, it's ubiquitous for all of us. Mindfulness matters because it allows us to challenge and let go of these judgments. We don't need to believe everything we think, all 65,000 of those daily thoughts. Something may feel unpleasant, but it might not be bad. So we can shift how we see things, and when we can do that, it changes everything. Now, number 4, equanimity. It's that intentional quality of being balanced even when we're presented with unpleasant and uncomfortable situations, whether they be discussions, experiences, thoughts. Mindfulness matters as it provides us the awareness that we can remain resilient, stable, and balanced even during challenge and discomfort. Number 4, accepting things as they are, not wanting to be anywhere other than where we're at. I call this being okay with being groundless. Mindfulness matters as it reminds us to pay attention and accept what arises. We don't need to push, fix, and change all the comings and goings of our thoughts and feelings, but we can observe them. Now, this principle, this next one, to me is one of the most powerful. It's number 6. It's called beginner's mind. You know, I was once told by a really wonderful teacher, imagine that you're visiting this planet for the first time. Wouldn't everything be remarkable? Light, taste, smell, sound, touch. You know, we are so often on autopilot. So when we approach our experience with curiosity, when we can remain open-hearted and open-minded to our mundane and miraculous experience, that beginner's mind brings freshness to all that there is. Number 7 is patience. Now, most of us begin to explore mindfulness for a particular reason, like reducing stress or relieving anxiety. And I can think of one of the most powerful and important principles that mindfulness brings to us is that it truly helps us cultivate patience. Now, practicing that belief that life unfolds in its right time has had perhaps the most profound impact on my experience. Yes, life does unfold in its right time. Now, this takes practice with, I will tell you, some trust. Take it from me. When we are overly attached to a particular outcome in a particular timeline, it can cause us great distress. I think we all know what that feels like. So cultivating some patience ultimately reduces stress and helps most everything. You know, this comes to mind, this great Buddhist saying that you can't pull a plant to make it grow. Now that takes patience. Number 8, befriending ourselves. Yes, befriending ourselves. You know, we've been taught to speak with kindness and respect to others. To me, mindfulness matters most because it allows us to glimpse into the way that we talk to ourselves. And it is an essential part of the practice. It's befriending ourselves by developing a kinder, more gentle relationship with our own narrative, our mind. That's really important. We're befriending our own mind and noticing that our thoughts are just thoughts. Now that's important. Number 9, honoring yourself. This is a practice and it takes purpose, not a race. And this is also important. We need to start where we are. We can honor that. Just show up without expectations. We don't need to get there in any specific timeline. This is what honoring ourselves means. It's creating a safe place for our growth. And we can continue to cultivate these qualities and skills. And it's important. These operating principles make a world of difference. You know, I come back to these principles all the time. You know, by simply being human, we continually challenge and we confront our default modes of impatience and self-judgment and anger and longing each and every day. And when I come back to these principles, they help me shift back on course again and again. You know, I'm reminded of the Pali word for mindfulness, which is sati, which means to remember to remember. And these principles will help you do just that. We all have space to grow, whether it be forgiveness, rumination, resentment. So we can create a space for more. Fill in the blank for you. What is right for you? Perhaps it's patience. Perhaps it's joy. Perhaps it's ease. You know, it takes and has taken me much time, patience, and truly a lot of self-compassion. And I still do have difficulty with that one, for me to befriend my thinking mind. And that has been an essential part of my mindfulness journey. And you will also discover, with some patience, what unfolds for you. You know, which tools and strategies will help you on your way in this miraculous time and these miraculous moments. Whether it be breathing into calm, sitting with some discomfort, leaning into a fearful experience with equanimity and courage, and maybe even some calm. If you can remain open and patient, together, we can experience mindfulness in beginner's mind each and every day with open curiosity, with some patience, and even some self-compassion, so that we can be groundless and joyful together in this extraordinary journey. I'm going to finish with a poem called Awakening Now by Dana Foltz. It's called You Are Here. Let's soften into this before we begin the poem so that we can be present to this, maybe without judgment, listening with some intention and presence. The moment your eyes are open, Seize the day. Would you hold back when the beloved beckons? Would you deliver your litany of sins like a child's collection of seashells, prized and labeled? No, I can't step across the threshold, you say, eyes downcast. I'm not worthy. I'm afraid, and my motives are impure. I'm not perfect, and surely I haven't practiced nearly enough. My meditation isn't deep, and my prayers are sometimes insincere. I still chew my fingernails, and the refrigerator isn't clean. Do you value your reasons for staying small more than the light shining through the open door? Forgive yourself. Now is the only time you have to be whole. Now is the sole moment that exists to live in the light of your true self. Perfection is not a prerequisite for anything but pain. Please, oh please, don't continue to believe in your disbelief. This is the day of your awakening. This is Linda Janasz for Mindfulness Matters. I am truly grateful that you are present and then you are here. And on this journey, may you live with ease.